Events that change our lives often come unexpectedly. I was inspired by a woman who was watching a campfire together, and my life took an unexpected turn with the another woman who couldn't even set up a tent properly. My name is David, 30 years old, and currently unemployed. I just left the rescue team where I had worked for 12 years. I was camping alone to seek solace in nature and to think about my future. It was a so-called solo camping. Camping became my hobby since I had enjoyed the skills and training for outdoor living from my rescue team days. I used to enjoy solo camping on my days off even when I was with the rescue team. I liked to keep my gear to a minimum and enjoyed touring on my bike when I was alone. Camping gear these days was quite compact. Today, I swiftly set up camp and was soaking in the serene atmosphere of the mountains. Ah, this is bliss, I murmured to myself when I heard a rustling noise. Looking up, I saw a woman entering the campsite alone. I watched her for a while to see if she had company, but it seemed she was alone. That's unusual. There has been a huge camping boom lately. Solo camping for women wasn't uncommon. But that day was a weekday, and it was winter. I had expected to relax alone, but it seemed that plan was out the window. Since she was a woman, I figured she'd be scared if I approached her because I was just a man. I tried to show no sign of being present and continue enjoying the natural surroundings, but isn't she struggling a bit too much? Even though it was deep in the mountains, it was not particularly high altitude and was a mild area, so there was no snow this time of year. Still, solo camping in the winter was challenging for anyone. I assumed she was an experienced camper considering she came during this season, but it was taking her forever to set up her tent. I watched her discreetly, and it seemed she was using her phone to follow a tutorial while setting up her gear. After struggling for 30 minutes, she finally set up a one-pole tent, but it was oddly slanted to one side. Is it crooked? She seemed to notice something amiss and murmured, but oh well, she says cheerfully, moving on to the next task. The forecast mentioned strong winds today. Her optimistic attitude worried me, and I repeated in my mind that this is not good at all. I checked her tent pegs. They were driven deep enough that it shouldn't blow away or collapse. Probably. Next, she seemed to be attaching a hammock to the trees. A hammock in winter, was that really necessary? She tied the rope to the tree while checking her phone and exclaimed, "Done," then immediately tried to get on it. I decided to step in at this point. Stop. It's dangerous. You'll fall. I tried not to raise my voice too much to avoid scaring her, but I did speak firmly to prevent her from climbing on. Ha! She flinched at my sudden intervention. I approached her while signaling with my hand. Sorry to startle you. I know it's sudden and surprising that a guy just appeared out of nowhere, but I couldn't just watch. Mind if I fix this? I said this as I began untying the hammock rope. Sure. She shrugged, so I introduced myself. I'm David, by the way. Former rescue team member. I'm quite used to this kind of stuff. When I introduced myself, the woman seemed to relax a bit. My background as a former rescue team member seemed to reassure her. My name's Emily. Sorry for the trouble, David. I noticed how incredibly beautiful she was. Her features were striking, with straight hair down to her shoulders. Though I couldn't see her figure well due to her layers, her legs and jeans were long and slender. I'm fairly tall, but she was tall for a woman too. I got a little nervous when I thought the woman was attractive. But since the woman was watching my hands with great interest, I decided to give a little lecture. After you pass the rope through this loop, pull it tight. It was pretty loose before. Give it a good tug. Emily hesitantly spoke up. I was worried about hurting the tree. Her concern was touching, and I couldn't help but smile. If you're worried about that, we can use some padding. A towel would work. I fetched a few towels I had and wrapped them around the tree, then tied the rope again, explaining each step. We finally got the hammock securely set up. Wow, amazing. Thank you so much. I quickly asked Emily, who was already swinging in the hammock. Can I fix the tent, too? It's a bit crooked. Her eyes lit up. Really? Please do. I noticed it was off, but after 30 minutes, I didn't have the energy to take it apart. She got out of the hammock, and I began showing her how to properly set up the tent. If all the pegs aren't evenly driven, it will lean. Start by getting the shape right, then make sure all the pegs are equally secure. I demonstrated by anchoring the tent's base to the ground. With her help, we soon had a perfectly pitched one-pole tent. Wow, it's a perfect triangle now. Thank you. I asked, waving my hand. No problem. Is this camping your first time in a while? It's almost my first time. I was surprised by the unexpected answer. Wait, your first time? Alone? In the winter? Isn't that a bit challenging? Why? She smiled wryly at my barrage of questions. I did some research with videos. I thought I'd be okay. If it gets tough, I can just ask the manager. But the admin building is far away. I bit back the urge to lecture her on the dangers of underestimating winter camping since I noticed the somber expression on her face. It's a memorial camp for my best friend, Jenna. Her sudden revelation chilled me. Emily's friend Jenna loved the outdoors and camped all year round. In contrast, Emily was an indoor person who often refused Jenna's camping invitations, citing bugs in the summer and the cold in the winter. Sometimes I agreed to go, but Jenna did most of the preparations. She made it look so easy, so I never thought I'd struggle this much. Emily scratched her head with a wry smile. These past few years, I've been so busy with work that I couldn't go camping with her much. I hadn't heard from her for a while, but I was too caught up with work to think much of it. When I got a call from Jenna's mom, I regretted not noticing anything sooner. I rushed to the hospital she mentioned and found a gaunt Jenna lying in bed. Emily's voice trembled. I panicked. You don't have to force yourself to talk about it. It's okay. I'm not the right person to hear this. I was on the verge of tears myself. Emily smiled as she saw me like this. You're kind, thank you. She didn't want me to see her like that, but her mom called me, and I'm glad I got to see her one last time. On that hospital bed, Jenna asked me to take her camping gear as a keepsake. I told her I couldn't use it. But she said she'd be happy just knowing her beloved gear was with me. She said if I kept it close, she'd probably be there with me too. I patted Emily's back as she sobbed and was looking at the one-pole tent. It was in excellent condition, though it was well used. She must have maintained it meticulously. Emily began to calm down as she gazed lovingly at the tent. After Jenna's funeral, some time passed, and I thought I'd give it a try, but I guess just diving in wasn't the best idea. She said this with a thin smile and her eyes red from crying. Jenna's dream was to create a campsite full of smiles. She always talked about it. I wanted to carry on that dream someday. But who knows how long it'll take at this rate. Her resigned tone pulled at my heartstrings. I seemed to be highly empathetic. Emily's pain from losing her irreplaceable friend and her frustration at not being able to fulfill her friend's dream mixed together in my heart. And it made me feel down. Emily noticed this and forced a bright smile. Sorry for the downer. How about I make some coffee? I decided to help her with the campfire instead of telling her I might be quicker on my own. You know, I have a favorite mug. Emily rummaged through her backpack and said, "Ta-da!" And she held out a stainless steel mug in front of me. I was taken aback. This logo. Emily beamed when I asked in a daze, cute, right? Jenna designed it. She made these camping stickers and had the same logo engraved on this mug. I staggered to my feet. I went to my bike parked at the campsite entrance and pulled out my helmet. When I showed it to Emily, her eyes widened in shock. That sticker. On the side of my helmet was the same logo as on her mug. I got this camping sticker during a similar winter camping trip. At the time, I was contemplating quitting the rescue team. I was advised to join the rescue team because of my large build, physical strength, and endurance in high school. The thought of working on site during disasters fascinated me. I had volunteered briefly during a local disaster in high school and helped with debris removal, and had seen rescue teams in action. Their coordinated efforts and efficiency left a strong impression on me. Could I become one of those rescue workers? There was the possibility of becoming what I admired. I was strongly drawn to a career in the rescue team, something I hadn't considered before. And so, I joined the rescue team. The training was tough, but I had no trouble with the physical demands. The joy of seeing someone rescued after hours of effort was indescribable. But the pain of lost lives was equally intense. And over time, the pain began to outweigh the joy. The hierarchy within the team was strict. Reprimands from superiors were a daily occurrence. I understood it was for the purpose of training and discipline. I accepted it as my responsibility and endured it when I was scolded. But it became unbearable to see others being reprimanded as if their pain were my own. It calmed me when I went camping on my days off, but after a day at the rescue team seeing others being reprimanded, my heart would feel heavy again. Living through such days, I was feeling pretty down at the time. That day, I visited a campsite to soothe my week's weary soul as usual. The manager invited me to join a big campfire they were having. Watching the flickering flames made me feel inexplicably at peace. I joined the campfire to see the large flames. While sipping hot wine and staring blankly, tears unexpectedly rolled down my cheeks. As I hurried to wipe them away, a woman sat down next to me. "What's wrong?" I looked up to see a woman with short hair and big eyes trying to look into my face. I brushed it off and said it was nothing, but she replied, "I'm just a stranger you'll never see again. Sharing might make you feel better." So, I talked about what was on my mind. She sighed and said sharply after listening to everything, "You're too kind. You probably have strong empathy." I know someone like that. They get sick or have headaches in noisy places or when they see someone being yelled at. Do you feel that way too? Her words made me realize something. I'd been experiencing frequent severe headaches those days. They always came when I was emotionally exhausted. I knew it. I think you'd be better suited to a job where you can be close to nature, animals, or even people. Her words struck a chord with me, but it is difficult to quit the rescue team. We need an approval from our superior. I may not be able to be approved with this kind of reason. When I showed signs of weakness, the woman rummaged through her bag and said, "Here, take this," as she handed me a sticker. It was a cute illustration of a girl raising her fist. That's my original camping sticker. Campers make and trade these. Mine represents a determination to visit many campsites. But after listening to everything, it's a fist of courage for you. Be brave. It's your life. She smiled as she said that. I felt like the cute girl in the illustration was giving me courage. Emily listened to my story with tears in her eyes. We didn't exchange contact info, so that was it. It took me a year to gather the courage, but this sticker gave me the strength to quit. As I spoke, Emily said, touching the sticker, "Jenna, she always gave courage to everyone, no matter what." When I said I couldn't bear her being gone, she told me, "I'll always be with you." This sticker is me. Whenever something happens, this sticker will always encourage you. Another tear rolled down Emily's cheek. Then she looked at me with determination. "Hey, would you run a campsite with me?" She had seemed to give up on running the campground earlier. When the topic came up again, I was surprised. "Weren't you giving up on that?" She nodded once. Then she looked at me directly again. "After hearing your story, I can't give up. Don't you think it's fate? That Jenna brought us together?" Her words left me speechless. "I feel like I can do it if you're with me, David." I furrowed my brows. Though I'm using it now, do campsites even make money? Today, I only paid $10 for this free site, plus $5 for firewood. Emily thumped her chest. "Leave it to me. I'm a freelance web designer. I can work from anywhere, and I'm quite successful. I have savings. And I think my freelance income can cover your salary while we manage the campsite." She said something incredible. "No way, I can't let a woman pay my salary." She frowned. "I'm the boss, and you're the employee. It's normal for me to pay you. It doesn't matter where the money comes from, right?" That made sense. Emily smiled slyly. "Of course, you'll be working hard. How about a campsite with an instructor for beginners like me? Wouldn't that be great?" It seemed she already had ideas in mind. Beginner plans, river fishing plans, rope work plans, and family plans. We'll create all sorts of plans. And you'll be the instructor for all of them. Hearing her ideas, one popped into my head as well. I wanted to teach children how to play in the mountains with the family plan. Emily laughed, seeing my enthusiasm. I'll handle the indoor tasks, and you'll take care of the outdoor work. Let's make Jenna's dream come true together. At that point, I decided to go for it. Jenna gave me courage. Let's fulfill the dream she couldn't. We took our first steps towards what seemed like a fantasy. I still wasn't sure if it would come true, and I was torn about how seriously to take this new endeavor. But 2 days after parting ways with Emily at the campsite, she contacted me about a mountain she was thinking of buying and asked for my opinion on its location and other aspects. Isn't she moving a bit too fast? The place she found had well-maintained surrounding roads and made it accessible by car or bike. There was a small but beautiful river, and it was wonderfully quiet once we stepped into the mountain. Though it could only be reached by car, we could offer a shuttle service for a few people. There was also a nearby national park that could offer potential partnerships. Apparently, Emily had been gathering information about campsites whenever Jenna talked about her dreams. How did you find such a great spot so easily? I was impressed and asked, and Emily had a big smile. From now on, the main maintenance is up to you. I quit looking for a new job. I resolved to devote myself to this campsite. A year later, it was the day before the campsite's grand opening. Emily's efforts since then have been incredible. Only the required permits and applications were enormous. It took a particularly long time to get permission to cut down some trees. Once everything was in place and we got the green light, it was my turn. I had obtained all the necessary licenses when I was waiting for various approvals, so it was challenging but smooth. We finally completed our campsite thanks to the help of friends and sometimes relying on contractors. Though it only had free sites, we separated areas for families, solo campers, and groups based on their purpose. Most camping equipment including tents could be rented if reserved in advance, though availability of tents was limited. We minimized the use of electricity because we wanted everyone to enjoy nature as much as possible. Instead, we offered support for any inconveniences. Emily and I made and drank hot wine sitting around a small campfire in the middle of the small site. It's delicious. She smiled at me with a relieved expression. This campsite turned out so beautifully. I thought making a campsite was just a dream. I'm really glad to meet you, David. Thank you. She smiled warmly. I straightened up. I'm glad I met you that day too, Emily. And meeting Jenna. I'm grateful. Her courage helped me quit, and your guidance led me to my new job. I was struggling. The rescue team work was fulfilling, and I still admired it. I was searching for something I could do next. Something where I could use the skills I developed in the rescue team. The opportunity to run a campsite seemed like a godsend. I never imagined I'd be running a campsite. Emily smiled at my words. Right. Neither of us ever thought we'd be running a campsite. And yet, we've made it happen. Isn't that amazing? I nodded. And thanks to your incredible promotion efforts, tomorrow's going to be busy. I wonder if I can handle it all. We had a packed schedule. The beginner plans and family plans got very popular, and there were many reservations for the campfire plan. So we planned to build a large campfire with everyone tomorrow. You can do it, David. Emily's cheeks were slightly flushed from the hot wine and the fire, and she looked at me with dreamy eyes. My heart skipped a beat at her gaze. Tomorrow would be extremely busy. It would be best to get some sleep early, and it might be wise to keep our relationship professional. Though I intended to keep things professional, my mouth moved on its own. Emily. I like you. I uttered a single word softly. I mumbled as feeling drowsy. Emily looked slightly confused. You like me? Isn't it Jenna? The mention of Jenna surprised me too. Jenna? Why? Emily looked up slightly. She seemed to be thinking. Was she already drunk? Well, you said Jenna gave you courage, right? You cherished the sticker on your helmet, supported her dream, and worked hard to build this campsite. Isn't that for her? I shook my head vigorously. No. Well, yes, but no. I was chasing your dream, Emily. She widened her eyes in surprise. Really? Not for Jenna? But for me? Of course. I didn't even exchange contact info with Jenna. Sure, she gave me courage, but I did all this for you. But you said we should fulfill Jenna's dream. For Jenna. That's because you said it first. I was just following your lead. Indeed, we both said we wanted to fulfill Jenna's dream when we talked about building the campsite. But this misunderstanding was too much. Our voices echoed through the quiet mountains. After arguing for a while, silence fell, and Emily started to cry. As I scrambled to comfort her, she said, I always thought it was for Jenna. That was fine since I love Jenna, too. But actually, I've hoped you'd see me too. I felt like collapsing in exhaustion. Instead, I hugged her. I've always liked you, Emily. I ran headlong into this project because you wanted to make Jenna's dream come true. Now, please listen to my wish too. She nodded while trembling in my arms. I'm so happy. I've always liked you too, David. We were under the star-filled sky with the crackling of a small campfire and the crisp mountain air. The next day, our new campground was set to open. It was at this place that Emily and I finally came together. And a few years later. Okay, I'll hand out the bingo cards. I pulled out bingo cards for a nature game as part of the family plan. Can you find the items listed? Green things, black things, things that smell nice, let's find them and complete 3 rows of bingo. My son Jake interrupted as I was explaining the game. He insisted on joining, so I got permission from the family and let him join in. Just then, Emily walked over with a few women. David, I'm off to the trekking tour. Can you take care of the main office? Surprised at how quickly time passed, I agreed. Got it. Be careful. I added a rule limiting the bingo game area to the family site visible from the main office and shouted, Ready, go. The kids ran off with smiles on their faces. I briefly followed Emily with my eyes watching the family before moving closer to the office. Emily used to be quite the indoor type. But now she has been captivated by the flowers and birds that adorn the place ever since she started running the campground. She even organizes trekking tours and guides them whenever there are reservations. Emily's beginner-friendly courses are popular among women who aren't very confident in their stamina since she was originally an indoor person. Though I mainly managed the campsite, I volunteered whenever disasters struck, thanks to the confidence gained from my rescue team days. Joining the rescue team and working there had been a source of pride. I deeply respect the rescue workers who dedicate themselves to serving the country and its people. The skills and strength I developed in the rescue team, such as debris removal, are now used to help disaster-stricken areas. My wife Emily and our child support my activity wholeheartedly. When I need to go, Emily adjusts the reservation numbers, calls on friends for help, or modifies plans to accommodate the situation. Our guests are always understanding, though these changes are sudden. My eyes fall on a sticker inside the main building. Campers add their stickers, but there's a special place for Jenna's sticker. Emily replaces it whenever it fades. I silently addressed the sticker. Jenna. Thanks to you, I've met my beloved wife, our child, and seen so many smiles at this campsite. Thank you for giving me the courage. Lost in thought, I noticed a car pulling into the parking lot. It's time to welcome the next guests. Look. I found something yellow, a dandelion. Just one more for bingo. I walked toward the main building with the sound of children enjoying the field bingo in the background.